because a lot of families would take that so personally and say, well, you don't want to be a part of this family if you're not going to be at this holiday, right? The guilt trips left and right. They don't know how to handle that.
You can be your best self while you're there and understand that I have thought this through and I am going to be here in my greatest self rather than just in reaction mode to everything that's happening. Hey everybody, this is Bianca.
And this is Amelia.
And welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are making evolution possible for growth-minded humans through vulnerable lessons, stories, and technology.
Welcome.
What do we I'm like, shit, where am I going with this? What do we got in store today? We're starting this off great.
Starting off with a bang. Happy Saturday. Actually, happy Thursday. This will be launched on a Thursday. We are recording this on a Saturday, and we're going to be digging into our 144th episode. That's talking about surviving the holidays. So I told Bianca, let's get juicy on this topic because this is a juicy topic and we've talked about it before. We've dug into it and we got a lot of great feedback from our past listeners, because we really like to expose some of those hairy subjects that not a lot of people like to talk about and that aren't really widely available, if you will. So join us in this episode. I think that what you can expect out of this episode is one little golden nugget for you that if you find the holiday season to be challenging for you, and it's kind of like a holiday hoobity-whatty for you, just like a large majority of us, you will, by the end of this episode, my hope, my goal, my aspiration, my commitment to you listeners is that you feel not only that you can survive the holidays, but you can, in some capacity that's aligned and uniquely to you, your authentic you. You can thrive through the holidays. So,
bold ass statement.
Bold statement.
You know what's interesting? I don't think I've ever been excited about the holidays. Like, I don't think I've ever been like, oh my God, I'm so excited, or just had any sort of positive feelings around this time of year. Like, it's always been a really sad, frustrating, stressful time, especially when I used to live at home, because it was always so chaotic. It was never like, oh my God, it's family time and we're really here with each other. It's like everyone has to look good and we have to cook and we have to do this and we have to do that. And it was always mayhem.
Yeah.
And like none of us ever actually enjoyed it. And I know so many people go through that same thing where they've never actually enjoyed the holidays. It's never actually been a time of what it's supposed to be, like love and light and celebration and, gratitude or anything like that. So that's why we really wanted to do this episode. We know there's so many people out there struggling with this, just as Amelia and I have. And it freaking sucks. Like, it really does. Like, when this time of year comes around and it's like you feel more lonely, you feel more empty in a sense. Like, I know that's how I've been feeling going into this holiday season. So we hope that this is helpful for everyone.
What I've found, and I'm actually really grateful, B, that you started with emotions there. Like, what does the holiday, for all of our listeners, like I want y'all asking yourself this question, because really we cannot even begin to think about surviving the holidays and good luck thriving, quite frankly, if you're not aware of the emotions that are being brought up when it comes to the season. So, we head into kind of October, September comes around, we start to turn the corner of the calendar where we start to be hyper vigilant, hyper aware to the seasons change and all of the holidays that come around, whether it be stores and suggested playlists that are coming up, or whether it be material goods ads while you're scrolling on your social media feeds, or even it might be those discussions with your family of like, in I don't know, like, let's say August, like, what are you doing for XYZ holiday, right? Or what's the plan? Or like maybe even beforehand, you have it planned out. And, you know, I think that talking to so many people about the holiday season, one of the most amazing thing, honestly, about our coaching is that it is global. So we have a global perspective of the holiday season. So obviously, like, we're just strictly talking about Q4, and there's so many different seasons that are in that. But no matter where you kind of are in the globe and or what your holidays that you celebrate or that might land on the calendar are that you're expected to celebrate with friends, with family, with coworkers, with whomever, it always is bringing up these feelings that year over year get worse, get deeper, and get more enmeshed in the actual season itself. So like you had said, B, as we start to turn the corner, it just like starts to creep up in the every single day. You start to have a sense of this like daunting anticipation and anxiety, and it just starts to build. And there's not a lot of ways to, or at least that are talked about, of like how we can cope throughout the time as the season builds. And likewise, like, what do we do in the day to day? And I thought it was really interesting to bring in for this episode those people who kind of have always, be like you, had a negative relationship, you know, on the macro, right? Like if you're looking at the big, Q4 macro feelings that are kind of negative, that are not really like joyful, you know, because I can remember that I have had micro moments of excitement, of joy, of like happiness, of fulfillment, of gratitude. But when I look at the entire Q4, it stresses me out, gives me anxiety. It frustrates me. Like I have similar emotions, right? And so, you know, I was hosting an event recently, and at the event we were talking about how to really connect and prioritize your relationship first during the holidays. And while we were at the end of the event, there was a Q&A, and there was a community member that had shared with us very vulnerably how she actually, like during the holiday season, she decides to like not visit. Like it is a hard set boundary for her that she determined because of all of these feelings that were really non-productive for her, that really gave her way too much chaos, to what you said earlier, B, in her life, and stressed out, and actually did the opposite of connection, of closeness, of joy, of gratitude. It did not create the space for that. So she decided, and she communicated to her family, I will not visit around Q4. Like you can literally like write that off in your minds and your expectations. And I don't want to hear about any invitations, because it's nothing about you guys. It is me. I do not feel good around this time because of all these outside expectations. And like how she did that is like incredible. You know, I think that there's so many people out there that I've spoken to that are like, holy crap, how the heck did you pull that one off?
Good
right?
for her.
Because a lot of families would take that so personally and say, well, you don't want to be a part of this family if you're not going to be at this holiday, right?
The guilt trips.
The guilt trips left and right. They don't know how to handle that, right? So why I bring this up and why I share this with our listeners is because I know if you're listening to the show, you have a growth mindset. Maybe not in every area of your life, but definitely in certain areas that you feel probably misunderstood or unheard or unsupported in some respect, whether it be your culture, whether it be your gender, whether it be your sexuality, whether it be your family, friends, colleagues, fill in the blank. To some extent, you do not feel as though that surviving the holidays is something that everyone around you is as concerned about as you are. Because why? And this is where the different paradigms kind of come in here. So paradigms, if you will, are a way of life, right? This is how your time really is spent. If you were to, you know, be only given a year, what would you do with it? And people who have growth-centered paradigms tend to spend their time very differently than those who maybe have a family-centered paradigm. So if you have a family-centered paradigm, every single minute of spare time goes to family.
Can you explain what a paradigm is before you get into the different types of paradigms?
Yeah. So the really high level explanation that I would give is a paradigm is a way of life, the way in which you would invest your time into essentially your values, your beliefs, your aspirations. So if you were to combine your values, your beliefs, and your aspirations, all of those are central around essentially one flagpole. What is the flagpole that you stick in the ground that everything else around your life revolves around? I kind of think about the planetary system, right? Everything revolves around the sun. So for each one of us, we have our own paradigm, whether it was chosen or not. Typically, we grow up in a family paradigm or pleasure, right? And everything revolves around that, right? You're trying to figure out what the next holiday trip is, or what the next, like, who's doing what for dinner on Sundays, like, or you might have a friend paradigm. Everything in which you're optimizing in your life is to hang out with friends. With growth, however, it's always trying to grow and to contribute. And holidays, what I found is like the antithesis of growth. Usually it's always going back into dogmatic paradigms of this is how we should do things. This is the expectation. We do X, Y, Z because of X, Y, Z. And that was a paradigm. That was a script that was written hundreds of years ago, and no one's changed.
You know what I think is really important too? I've been seeing this on social media. I recently started following a lot of like pro LGBTQ pages and platforms on like Instagram, and I recently got TikTok, so like on TikTok too.
Nice.
Because I want to be, you and I talked about this, like I want to be more engaged in that community so that we can eventually have products and services and events and stuff around that. Yeah. And something that I've been seeing a lot, which I never even thought about it until I read it, and I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I'm bringing this up because you mentioned like different genders and sexual orientations and whatnot. Yeah. A lot of us in the LGBTQ community feel like we're forced to go to events. And this is just anyone, but I'm talking right now specifically about this because I think this is my experience. We're like forced to go to these events. Yeah. And not live in our truth and not talk about parts of our life. And, oh, well, you can come, but don't talk about the fact that you have a boyfriend. Or, oh, you can come, but, you don't need to tell anyone that you're gay. Or we're just not going to talk about that. And it's like your entire sense of identity is denied and rejected. And I've been seeing things all over social media that are positively promoting you do not need to go. Yeah. You do not need to subject yourself to that. And to the point that we're making, you're probably going to get guilt trips. Yeah. You're probably going to get shamed and blamed and ridiculed and have angry comments said to you. And it doesn't matter if you're in the LGBTQ community or if you're like Amelia and I, where you're just really not understood by your families or whatever your dynamic is. The holidays don't have to be this traumatizing and re-traumatizing experience where you're basically reintroducing yourself to all of your primary pain, to all of your primary triggers. And I know that that's like that for me, where no one even says anything, no one talks about it, but I go in there and I just instantly feel small. Yeah. And it's because I've just been in that environment so often that no one has to say anything anymore. It's just like a gut reaction. It's like, oh, we're in this environment, shrink. Yeah. And I know there's so many people out there who experience that too, where someone doesn't even have to say something to you, but that feeling, that memory, that idea, that memory of like, this is not safe. This is not good. Just all comes back up. And when your paradigm, to Amelia's point, is so different than the people around you, that feeling of isolation is even harder. It's even worse. Yeah. Especially when there's all of these expectations thrown on you. Like, you have to be at this event. You have to get these gifts. You have to dress this way. You have to look like that. You have to show up. You need to be what we are expecting you to be. And the message that Amelia and I are trying to promote in this episode is you don't have to. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to do what is best in your heart and in your life, and to not subject yourself to the re-traumatizing environments or the traumatizing environments that'll re-traumatize you.
Right.
We just did an episode on trauma. If you guys want to listen to that, I really highly suggest it. The holidays are so hard for so many people because we're expected to be something that we're not, more so than ever.
And I think, we don't have the training, the practice, and the education around how to confront those expectations and pivot from those, not following those, you know?
It's a feeling of helplessness. It's, I can't do anything. I just have to go in this environment and just do what I've always done and not know how to be who I am and how to endure the looks and comments and the ill intent.
Creepy uncle and all this weird stuff.
Yeah. And what we're really trying to say in this episode is you don't have to, and it'll be okay. I know that's what Amelia and I needed to hear when we were younger. And honestly, even now, like, I'm thinking about the holidays and there's this like knot in my stomach of like, I don't want to go.
I know.
I really don't. Like, I don't want to spend time with people that don't understand me. And not because they're bad people. They just can't.
Yeah.
They have no idea who I am. They have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I've had family say, like family and friends be like, hey, how's work? I'm like, oh, my business? That's like doing amazing. They're like, no, your real job. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys have no idea.
Yeah,
you have no
painful.
idea.
And the questions like not asking, not inquiring, like, you know, like I always try, and this is one thing that I know our listeners can maybe institute. Like, if you're not ready to confront the holidays and like this community member who completely puts such a hard boundary in for her,
Good for
that
her.
like, I'm not going to be visiting any at all during Q4, weekend family visits and everything else the entire rest of the year. Happy to plan that, all that jazz. If you're not ready for that, I think that a lot of it has to do with going into it, setting an intention, to be your point, setting a boundary. One of the things that because I know that it doesn't take a lot to live in a family paradigm. What do I mean by that? Well, you know, like, it's something that you kind of just sink into. It's like you sink into a couch and you just exist together. And like, that's kind of a family paradigm. You just like spend time together, and like, that's kind of checking the box. Whereas like a growth paradigm, for example, like I'll think about like Thanksgiving last year. It was like, okay, well, my family paradigm, like, that's obviously a part of me, but my growth paradigm is a lot heavier. So I'll bring in crafts, or I'll bring in, you know, a mission driven thing, and I'll leave to make sure that I'm going to continue with my goals, go to the gym, all that stuff. And I'm going to anticipate that there will be these little guilt trips here and there. And I need to understand what my intention that I set prior to going in there really kind of prepares me, if you will, for a little bit of a battle. And knowing that that's going to happen strictly because a lot of people do not have the emotional agility, the emotional vocabulary to say what they really, really mean underneath the guilt trips, the gaslight, all that stuff, which is truly deeply a very unmet need of, I love you, I want to spend time with you, and even maybe stuff underneath that, I feel lonely if you're not here, right? I don't know how to handle the loneliness that I feel if you go, right? So I think that setting an intention before you walk into the door, before you even go into it, and honoring those boundaries that you set, even if they are small, you know, like, you know, it could literally be something as small as like not having a drink. You know, I am sober for now 2.5, almost 3 years, I think. Yeah, 3 years. And like, that at one point was my intention, but now because I've done it so many times, it's like, I don't even have to worry about it, right? So you can start small and build like everything. And to be what you said earlier so eloquently, you don't have to. And that's the thing. And it will be okay if you don't.
Something that I've had, and we can wrap up on this, but something that I've had so many clients do, and this is something that I've done and that I intend on doing again, is creating a
safety plan.
I didn't want to use that word though. I want to give it a new name.
Ooh.
But a holiday, not escape plan. What's a better word for this? Help me out, man.
It's like my brain didn't go to anything better than that.
Okay, we'll just call it a safety plan for now, and I'm going to come up with a better name for it.
Yeah.
When I'm working with clients at my quote unquote real job, right? Working as a mental health counselor, something that we do with people who are struggling with their personal safety, whether it's that they're harming themselves or there's a possibility of them trying to take their own life, what we do is create a safety plan. And this safety plan basically lays out what are the triggers that might come up that might make you want to do that, and what are step-by-step things that you can do to keep yourself safe. Something that I've done with clients is I have modified that and made it like a survival plan, something like that, of when you're going to go into the holidays, okay, let's anticipate in advance what could happen.
Right.
What do you know based on what's happened in the past is probably a high percentage of probability going to happen again. So for me, for example, someone's going to make a comment about my ass, right? It just, every time I walk into a room, someone has to in my family. It's absurd, but whatever. Someone's going to make a comment about my ass. Someone's going to make a comment about my body in general. Someone's going to make a comment about why I don't show up anywhere anymore. And then my mom is probably going to say something about the outfit that I wear. And then there's going to be like 20 different things that could happen. So I'm like, okay, let's anticipate this in advance. 99% chance this is going to happen. Okay, so I know this. How can I respond to it? How can I be proactive? Because I typically just react and I get frustrated.
Yeah, and then you're not proud of yourself because you didn't do the work.
Yes. So what can I do? How can I prep for this? Okay, if someone makes a comment about my body, I can do this. Okay, if someone makes a comment about my outfit, I can do this. If someone makes a comment about why I'm never around, I can say this. Cool. Okay, now it's not going to be a surprise when they say it, and now I will have thought in advance about how I want to respond. So I'm not just instantly reacting. Okay, cool. If you're feeling bad while you're there, what are some things that you can do? Okay, well, I know that if I see this person, I usually feel bad. So maybe I can let a friend know in advance that I want to be able to talk to them if possible and have that conversation. Cool. Okay, so now you have that option. Okay, I want to, there's a certain video that I like watching that makes me feel good. Okay, cool. Make sure you have that ready for you. So it's really planning in advance what could happen and getting yourself in a good space to be able to handle it. You know, giving you some little tools in advance to make you feel better or to prepare an exit strategy, right? What would have to be said, or if something were to be said, what would you know what it is that would make you be like, okay, you know what, this is too much, I'm leaving. So
this
I know for me,
a boundary, I need to go.
Right. What is the boundary that might be crossed that you are going to promise yourself if that happens, you're going to go? Okay, cool. Plan that in advance. Okay, what can you do before you even get to the event to put yourself in a good mental space? Listen to a podcast, watch something funny, reach out to someone, you know, go through this strategy before you even get there. That way you can be your best self while you're there and understand that I have thought this through and I am going to be here in my greatest self rather than just in reaction mode to everything that's happening.
So valuable. And what I've done, like, which anyone can implement, it's just a matter of honestly courage, is you can even invite those that will be around you into your boundary area. So like, for example, if there is excessive drinking, maybe And you know that there's a high probability of that happening, where excessive drinking turns into so many different other negative experiences. And maybe you might be the laughing end of the stick once everyone's drunk. What you could do as well in advance to that is let the host know a couple weeks before, hey mom, hey dad, hey grandma, just letting you know if I do happen to dip, it's because a boundary was crossed, and I'll circle back with you, you know, a day later or whatever. Like, so that you can let, say, for example, your biggest stress is like letting the host down or whatever. Like, you, number one, you don't need to justify your actions to anyone. I'll say that. But then number two, if you do want to invite, and this is what I call proactive family leadership, if you do want to invite family, friends, people that you're surrounding yourself with into this safety plan, you can actually help them be on a team with you to where, okay, if, let's say, for example, another friend or another person at the holiday tends to, let's say, grab my butt, you can literally call that out and have, let's say, your brother or your sister or an uncle or someone else say, hey, this typically happens every single time and it makes me really uncomfortable. Would you be willing to help me out, like, and pay attention? If you see that, confront him because it's really uncomfortable, or confront her, or whatever it is. Like, that's where we can, I really feel like, to not only survive, but we can thrive the holidays. Like, you can start to incorporate others in your safety plan, and you might just be so effective at your leadership that other people might actually see you and be like, oh my God, I never thought of doing that. That's such a great idea. Right. And it might give others the permission slip to do that, or maybe, you know, call in you and have you help them in some of the things that they're struggling with. Because the key thing here is you're not alone if you feel like you have to survive the holidays. And if it brings you a lot of anxiety, stress, it re-traumatizes you, like this is very, very common. And what we do hope that you were able to take away in this episode, some little golden nuggets, like we said, to help feel more equipped that you can not only survive, but you can thrive the holidays. And there's so many different ways to do that. So if you ever have questions about this, or you want to create a safety plan, Bianca and I make sure that we have 30 minutes locked in our calendar, literally every single Saturday, completely free. It's to connect. It's to help equip you for success and help you and your friends and your family evolve, because that's really what we deeply care about. So with that said, be any closing intentions or takeaways and episode suggestions for our listeners?
I think the final intention or takeaway that I would want to say is you guys aren't alone. We've really been through it too, and we know what it's like to be in that space and to feel like you're just so trapped and there's like nothing you can do. And what I really want to say is you're not alone, and we can figure it out.
For sure. We've gotten so many people on safety plans. We've gotten so many people, clients, like really like expressing their truth to family, been able to live within their boundaries, and be able to have their families grow as a result of their courage, their bravery, and stepping up. And in addition to that, you know, one of the most rewarding things for me is when clients not only do that, but then they realize by like a cousin or someone else saying like, hey, like, remember when you did that last holiday season? Like, could you help me with this? Like, and it's empowering other people, you know, and that's really what it's all about. The holidays, from a growth perspective, it should be whatever is important to you. You know, that's the only should that's out there for me. You know, I would like the holidays, and my intention is to craft the holidays, to construct the holidays for me to be empowering, to be uplifting, to be contributive, to be, you know, strictly a place of joy and gratitude. So I think final takeaway is don't let anyone else tell you what should be for you. It is your life. And
absolutely,
you got this.
Episode suggestion
is 28 family dynamics prep work you need, holiday edition. I believe we actually talked about maybe a safety plan in that one too. What about you, B?
We definitely did. 23, how to set boundaries.
Whoop. That one's beautiful. A goodie. That one's a heavy hitter in our community. All right, awesome. Fam, we are so grateful that you joined us in this episode, and we cannot wait for you to join us in the next one, which is Motivation Monday, a simple way to enjoy the holiday season when you single.
Yeah, buddy.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.